sharks. It only takes one look to understand who reigns over the underwater world of the ocean. Whether it's the open sea or coral reefs, sharks have found an answer for every challenge. In this underwater realm, they are the undisputed kings. Most humans only dare venture into their world with the protection of technology. But what happens if you can only approach them closely by rejecting this protection? Adventure Ocean Quest. An encounter with a world under the waves. With divers who become underwater beings themselves. They work together with scientists on all the world's oceans. Deep under the surface of the water, without a sound and without a breath. Adventure in the depths of the sea, the likes of which has never been seen before. The South Pacific, a world of open sea dotted with small islands. This is the starting point for an extraordinary expedition into the world of one of the most bizarre and mysterious shark species, the great hammerhead. Their aim is to get closer than ever before to this mighty ocean predator, without the help of any technology. It is a journey into a different world. The hunt for scientific insights takes courage, skill, and self-control, and a deep fascination with nature.
In Polynesia, the great hammerhead, it's the king of the sharks. I think they were right. The old Polynesian have seen this creature for probably 3,000 or 4,000 years. There is something about its presence in the water. So yes, for me, it's probably the king of the shark as well.
Mourir, an island in the South Pacific that captures the essence of a tropical idyll. Green volcanic peaks provide an unrivaled view of the surrounding ocean. French underwater cameraman Christian Petron and two of the best freedivers in the world are about to embark on their mission. The Belgian diver Frederic Buyle holds several freediving world records. And the Canadian world-class freediver William Winram will work closely with Fred as his safety diver. Every island in French Polynesia offers a unique world, but they all have one thing in common. Turquoise bays conceal colorful coral reefs, and the sea forms a major part of life for local people. Marseille is the base of the French Oceanographic Institute CRIOB, where the shark specialist Johan Mourir conducts his research.
Hi Fred,
Hi,
welcome
Johan.
to CRIOB.
Ah, thanks. Good. We go?
We go.
Johan Mourir specializes on lemon sharks and uses some interesting techniques that can also be used to study other types of shark.
You also have planned to work with other species somewhere else. What's the next step for you?
We will go to Rangiora and try to tag some hammerhead. Mm-hmm. And this is a species that is usually found in Rangiora, but it's very difficult worldwide to find this shark. And
nobody knows what they do during the year when they're not in Rangiora. They might be traveling or maybe spending time in open water like oceanic white tips or something.
Yeah, we only know that we can see some individuals coming to Rangiora, and but we don't know where they are going. So there is two kind of techniques we can use there because we don't know what they do. We can put some acoustic tags with a receiver
for the resident sharks,
to see if it's resident shark.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we can also put some satellite tags and if they migrate, we will be able to know where they are going. This shark, the great hammerhead, is quite a shy species, so that's why we need your help to tag it, because you don't do bubbles, and you will be able to go closer to the shark, and it will be easier for us to tag it.
I'm quite happy to be here again and try to do that.
Rangiroa lies 250 kilometers to the northeast of Tahiti, and with its 80 kilometers length and up to 32 kilometers wide, it is one of the 4 biggest atolls on Earth. Its name translates as endless sky, a reflection of its big skies and open spaces. About 2,000 people live on the biggest of this coral island chain, which is dissected by hundreds of small channels. This is where the ebb and flow of the tides supplies a multitude of food, and most of the underwater life congregates. This will be the diver's starting point.
We will attract some big sharks with a bait, and we will see what happens, but we hope to see maybe hammerheads and maybe tigers. So we never know what to attract, but we hope to see big sharks.
The weather isn't on the side of the divers. Wind creates waves and difficult currents. Clouds darken the otherwise bright underwater world. But still, the sheer diversity of the underwater world at Rangiroa is impressive. A massive shoal of humpback red snappers is having a rest after the exertions of their nighttime hunting. They are predators, but during the day, they congregate in large shoals to seek protection from bigger hunters. The reef is teeming with wildlife. But there is no sign of great hammerhead sharks. In the wide expanse of the South Pacific, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Again and again, the freedivers go down to look for them. They have to remain vigilant. Other sharks are ready and waiting. Gray reef sharks. They often congregate in the channels between the islands. Gray reef sharks are generally curious but not aggressive towards people. And in contrast to many types of shark, they are still relatively common. They make a nice photo opportunity for Will. Growing to a length of about 2.5 meters, they can dive to an impressive depth of around 300 meters in pursuit of prey. For the team, they're a good sign. These sharks are not just hunters, they're also prey, and their predators include the great hammerhead. Perhaps their presence means that the team have a good chance of finding their shy targets after all. This shark has already been a target of humans and has lost his dorsal fin. Although Fred and Will are surrounded by sharks, they remain calm. Their controlled movements and noiseless presence means the sharks are relaxed and allow them to stay nearby. But bad weather means it's too dangerous to stay in the water. The storm is brewing, and the expedition abruptly has to abandon their search.
Today, not a lot of light, very rainy, but you see it's really messy. That's the lagoon of Rangiroa, and you see the lagoon is like a rough sea, which is not common. And it's bad weather.
The boats have to be secured. Although this is the rainy season, the constant bad weather is very unusual. One low-pressure system follows the next. Bad underwater visibility makes the search for the hammerheads even more difficult. And the rough waves would make it impossible for the divers to return to the boat. But there is a glimmer of hope. The weather forecast for the next few days sounds reassuring. Perhaps they're in luck. The weather clears up. The team is up early to get ready for their outing. Carefully, they load the expensive camera and scientific equipment. Their destination is the outer wall of the reef, where a channel opens from the islands into the open sea. It's the beginning of a long day. The marine biologists usually have to contend with a serious disadvantage during their efforts to observe the animals underwater. Their diving equipment is noisy and can be heard from far away. It is disruptive and frightening for the animals. Freedivers, on the other hand, glide noiselessly through the water. Years of training allow them to stay even at greater depths for minutes at a time. It makes them perfect underwater naturalists. Without any technical aids, they search for the shy hammerheads and manage to get close to them. They're not perceived as a threat. And here he is, the king of the Polynesian sharks. It emerges as if from nowhere and quickly disappears again. But at least the divers now know that this is a good spot to place their receivers. These will serve to register signals emitted by the transmitters that they hope to attach to the sharks. They install a concrete base at a depth of 25 meters to anchor the receiver. An eagle ray approaches. They are one of the main prey species for the hammerheads. Perhaps this too is a good sign. Fred also finds a hawksbill turtle nearby. They are now critically endangered and a very rare find. Marine turtles are still hunted for their meat and shells and threatened with extinction. They are usually very shy, but this one doesn't seem to feel threatened by Fred's presence. It's busily looking for food, mainly sponges that live amongst the corals. While the scientists install the receivers at different locations around the reef, Fred continues his search for the hammerheads. But since his brief encounter, he's not seen any sign of the predators. But there are other types of shark everywhere. The divers have to stay alert at all times. The receiver is installed very carefully. Hopefully, it'll record valuable data for the next 4 years. Silvertip sharks emerge from the depths of the ocean. It's certainly a lot easier to observe these sharks, since they are very curious and approach the divers. They want to find out if it might be worth launching an attack, and they invest a lot of time to weigh up the situation. Fred and Will don't take the situation lightly and stay very alert. They make sure never to turn their backs to the predators. As long as they can maintain eye contact and don't give the sharks the chance to launch a surprise attack, they're safe. The sharks will not take the risks of attacking an unknown adversary without the element of surprise. While the gray reef sharks always stay near the coral atoll, these bigger silvertip sharks often venture further into the open sea. The outer reef area is their preferred habitat. They're not known to be aggressive towards humans, but down here, nothing can be taken for granted. The sharks do keep a very wary eye on Fred and Will. Then, the divers receive other visitors. Mammals, just like themselves. Curious and playful in the weightlessness of the ocean, they come to investigate the divers. Dolphins are essentially perfectly adapted free divers. They can hold their breath for up to 15 minutes and reach incredible depths of up to 300 meters. The dolphins of Rangiroa have been used to people for a very long time. They are inquisitive and keep only a very small safety distance to the divers. Humans have always been fascinated with the dolphins' playful group behavior and curious nature. And while many shark species also prey on their own kind, dolphins are very sociable animals. These highly developed and successful predators don't spend all day in pursuit of prey. Dolphins have time to play and to enjoy life. For many people, they represent an ideal lifestyle, free and full of a love for life. They decide how long they want to spend with people. Then, they vanish again in the wide expanses of their underwater home. It's been a gripping dive, but the mission to meet great hammerhead sharks face to face was disappointing.
At present, there is a lot of eagle ray in the pass. That is one of the favorite prey of the great hammerhead. And maybe the sharks were not very excited because they already have eaten many prey and are not hungry yet at the moment. So we'll see to try again and maybe get back a tiger shark.
Yeah, all the boats find tiger sharks and hammerheads, and we find silvertips, which for me is my first time with the silvertips, and they're cool. I like them, but they are That one was just like a Galapagos. Coming behind and you turn around and he's like,
it's their South
me, not
Pacific
me.
cuisine. No, it's not there.
so. Still, there's a lot of life here.
No, yeah, it's beautiful.
Huge amounts of fish. Huge,
Yes.
huge. So, it's a nice experience.
No, it's good to be in the water. It's just sad they don't find what we need.
Yep.
Time for a well-earned rest while waiting for better weather conditions. The South Pacific continues to present itself from a side that isn't exactly the way it's portrayed in travel catalogs. The divers use their free time to look at a receiver that Johan has recovered from the seabed.
So now we have these 2 sharks data. There is an interesting pattern, so that would be really interesting to tag more sharks to see what happened and to see if they all have this behavior, because at this point we had only 2 sharks. So they seem to stay in this area until February, and to tag with acoustic, both with acoustic and satellite tags, we could gain more information about their behavior.
Ideally, 2 tags on each shark would be good.
Yeah, this is a satellite tag. So on this tag we have different sensors that will store information about the temperature, the depth of the shark, and also the light. And with the light you can, with algorithms,
Determine the position of the shark.
determine the position of the shark. And so we can, usually we put this for different months, like usually it's better to put like 5 or 6 months of data, and after you get this whole information when the tag is detached.
The hammerhead is a big pelagic shark that navigates a lot. And when you find him, or I would say more when he finds you, you have like 30 seconds to react, because it's a very shy animal, and it's just doing 1 or 2 turns, check you out, and then he leaves and disappears in the blue. And sometimes you wait for 2.5 hours to have 20 or 30 seconds of possible encounter. So within these 30 seconds you have to do your dive, approach him without scaring him, and find the right spot for the tag, so it's not easy. And here we struggle a lot. We did a lot of dive, a lot of days in the water, the same place, waiting for him. And so we are really curious to see where that shark went, because they are very strong swimmers, so they might do thousands of kilometers, we have no idea. So it would be really cool to have the data from the tag and see where the animal went.
But Johan has to return to his base in Mourir on the next available flight. The search for the great hammerhead sharks has to be put on hold, because his ongoing lemon shark research cannot wait any longer. Fred and Will join him again on Mourir. But first, they plan a visit to a very special place on Rangiroa, the Blue Lagoon. It is a protected area, and plans to build hotels and tourist resorts were thankfully never put into action. The palm trees on the beaches are home to a rich variety of bird species. It includes a number of terns like blue and black noddies. Even the violet lorikeet, which has vanished from the majority of South Pacific islands, still survives here. The Blue Lagoon is also a nursery for black-tipped sharks. In this sheltered bay, they have little to fear and grow up in relative safety. Although some adults have been measured at 2 meters, black-tip sharks generally only grow to about 1.5 meters and weigh about 18 kilos. There are only a few places left on Earth where animals are left in peace from tourists and protected from hunters. The Blue Lagoon of Rangiroa is one of them. Fred and Will return to Mourir to join Johan in his work with lemon sharks. Just like the Blue Lagoon of Rangiroa, there are special places on Mourir where young lemon sharks grow up in peace.
Yeah, it's blessing, really.
Great.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go.
Johan puts out nets to examine the young sharks in more detail.
How long will they stay in here before they're big enough to go out to the outside of the reef, do you think?
We don't really know, but I'm sure they still staying for maybe 1 year.
Yeah.
I have a sample, an individual for 2 years on the same site.
Ah, okay.
So we sample the same individual. But I think when they are growing, they are expanding their home range, and the home range is growing, and they will go further and further in the lagoon.
But they still come here to protect.
I think they're still coming in this area to hunt or things like this. And after the first lemon sharks we saw outside the reef is about 2 meters. So I think they are using the lagoon to grow until 2 meters, and after they can start to come back to go on the
Outside of the reef.
outside of the reef.
The researchers capture some of the young animals to study their development in detail. The shark's yellow or olive coloration now becomes obvious. It is a kind of camouflage against the reefs and sandy sea bottom of their home range.
So here we have a female. So I will just need help to carry the shark. We have here, look, we have the umbilical scar. So it's a new individual. It's just born like months ago. Okay. Will, can you grab it?
Ouais. Ouais.
Be careful your hand. I will do a giant example.
Okay. Beautiful little creatures, huh? So you want to measure the tail?
Yeah, the whole body.
Yeah.
At birth, these sharks are about 60 centimeters long, but by the time they reach adulthood, they will have grown to around 3.5 meters. Adult lemon sharks may look threatening, but lethal attacks on humans are unheard of.
Okay.
So it's 69 centimeter. Now I will take a genetic sample.
Taking it from here, from the tail.
Big mouth.
Yeah. Relative to their little body, yeah.
Oh shit.
Okay.
Let me,
Yeah.
Oh, he's okay. Don't worry.
Enfin, peut-être tu peux le refaire, enfin sans couper, mais juste.
I put the sample in alcohol for future genetic analysis, so to extract DNA, so it can just take it for a long time.
okay. Okay.
We can
you
let
let
it
him
go.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. On y va, mon ami. That's how you want to.
It's beautiful. It's
Yeah,
like the big one, but in small. Huh? It's,
Yeah.
really look like the real
Beautiful
thing.
little creatures. Their eyes are amazing.
Adult lemon sharks are only found outside the bays of Mourir. The crew gets the necessary equipment ready for their dives the next day. Freedivers don't need much equipment, but their special carbon fiber flippers allow them maximum maneuverability with minimum effort. In order to tag the sharks, the freedivers use modified harpoons. Johan will have to use conventional diving equipment, complete with air tanks.
For tagging, I always use a modified Spirion. It's a special shaft. It's modified to insert the dart of the tag in the shark. But otherwise, the Spirion is a regular Spirion. It's just the shaft that is modified.
The team is aiming for the outside of the reef surrounding the island. The scientists want to pass through a channel in the reef and target a spot where they've repeatedly come across lemon sharks in the past.
Here we really have to be careful to tag the shark after it passes you. Okay, so like from the side, the back side of the shark. So when you tag it, when you will start, because he feels the shaft and the tag inside him, he will run away. And if you tag it when he's facing you, he might run away and feel trapped and maybe try to bite you. So always have the shark passing you and then tag it so he can just run away in open water. That's very important.
Christian Petron will follow the freedivers at a distance. They can't afford to have any disturbance to their work. It is simply too difficult and too dangerous.
It's much easier to tag sharks without any bubbles from the tanks, diving tanks, and so that they can't disturb the sharks and going closer to the sharks and tag in the good way. And so I will show Fred which shark to tag, and he will try to tag it. We try to tag a resident shark. Today it's a resident female we are looking for, and so we hope there is a resident female underwater.
Lemon sharks are impressive animals. They're among the biggest sharks in the ocean. The divers' work starts with trying to get the animals used to their presence. Lemon sharks have very few natural enemies. The only threat comes from a select few other shark species, or chillingly, their own kind. Other kinds of shark are also inquisitive and approach the divers. They are gray reef sharks and black-tip sharks. Lemon sharks tend to hunt all sorts of fish, including smaller sharks and even juveniles of their own kind. But stingrays, crustaceans, octopus, and squid are also on their menu. But although the freedivers can get close to the animals, the real test is to get the right angle for a successful shot near the back fin. Johan stays at a distance and takes photographs of the animals for his database. Fred is a very experienced fish tagger. His calm patience ensures that the animals aren't nervous. Only a calmly swimming shark can be harpooned with precision. Frightened animals will quickly disappear, or worse, aggressive animals could launch an attack. Since shark skin is unusually tough, the harpoon has to be fired from point-blank range to penetrate it. It is quite a tall order. Again and again, the freedivers select a target, but decide not to shoot at the last minute to avoid accidentally injuring the animals. Johan checks the receiver. 4 years underwater is a long time. Fred finally decides to shoot. The transmitter is well placed. Johan documents the tag. Fred has reloaded the harpoon and is ready for another attempt. He's in luck. A big female makes for an ideal target. This transmitter is also secure and well placed. In the next few years, the researchers will find out where the lemon sharks spend their time around Mourir, if they have a preference for certain locations, or if they spend their time spread right around the atoll. Johan passes the next transmitter to Fred. The mission is complete. It's been an all-round success. For Fred and Will, this was not a difficult operation. But that will be quite a different matter when it comes to the great hammerheads. Even just tracking these sharks is a serious challenge. They return to base. Once again, the divers have witnessed the distinctive sets of behavior that different types of shark have developed. And each individual shark has its own personality. It doesn't do them justice just to distinguish between more or less aggressive animals.
Here, during that trip, I can say I met the grumpy lemon shark, because these guys are really grumpy. They are like old men, always a bit frustrated and trying to get a bite, and you never know exactly what they think. But at the end, you see they are just like other sharks, and beautiful creatures and fragile that we have to try to protect. But they are very grumpy.
The team returns to Rangiroa one last time. Divers there have come across some great hammerheads and contacted Johan. They're spotted more often at this atoll than anywhere else, probably because their main prey, the gray reef sharks and rays, is available in large numbers. Johan spends the remains of the day to prepare the satellite tags. Without this revolutionary technology, scientists would have practically no chance to track the movements of underwater creatures. Amongst other details, Johan programs the tags with the positioning data at the beginning of the expedition. He also predetermines the amount of time the tag should remain in place before it is released. But he remains skeptical.
So everything is ready, and we will see to get a shark to tag.
The hope to finally get an insight into the secret lives of the great hammerheads depends on the small satellite transmitter. But it can only serve its purpose if the freedivers actually manage to tag a shark. Everyone is apprehensive.
just have to be at the right place at the right time. I think it would be difficult for them to tank it, but hope they will have the chance to do it.
We do our best.
The job isn't any easier for the cameraman. They're not allowed to interrupt the work of the researchers. Yet, they're out to get the most sensational pictures of these rare animals. It is almost an impossible task. And to have any chance at all of succeeding in their mission, the freedivers need help. The shy great hammerhead sharks have an exceptionally well-developed sense of smell. So Johan has resorted to using a bait fish, a dead reef shark. Its scent will be carried on the ocean currents over many kilometers. The divers try to remain as inconspicuous as possible and wait. Then, in the distance, they spot the contours of a great hammerhead shark. Fred remains motionless to see if the animal is going to come any closer. But the scent has also attracted a tiger shark, one of the most dangerous sharks for a human being in the water. And this one is not at all shy. Some of the biggest sharks in the world now gather in the immediate vicinity of the freedivers. Great hammerheads tend to stay close to shore along the tropical and subtropical coastlines of the world. A fully grown hammerhead can reach between 3 and 6 meters and weighs up to 500 kilos. They're amongst the most impressive creatures in the ocean. But science still has no concrete answer to the question of why these sharks have such a bizarre head shape. The researchers want to find out what advantages the hammerhead sharks get from this strange adaptation. Some scientists think it provides aerodynamic advantages. The shape could provide greater stability during lightning-fast maneuvers in the water. Hammerheads have also been observed using their heads to pin rays to the ground before eating them. The extreme width of their heads could make it easier to receive the electromagnetic signals of their prey. Or perhaps the hammerheads are able to build up three-dimensional impressions of their surroundings through their sense of smell. But all of these theories have yet to be confirmed. Gradually, the hammerhead shark approaches the bait. But the tiger shark is also still nearby. Slowly, the circles of the hammerhead around the bait are getting tighter, bringing the shark closer to the divers. The freedivers finally have the chance to take some photographs for Johan's catalog. Now they're ready for action. Fred collects the tagging harpoon. A second hammerhead shows up. It's a great sign. Perhaps the divers will finally be in luck. The animals seem to be gaining in confidence around the divers. But to be successful in their tagging mission, everything has to be just right. This will be far more difficult than tagging the lemon sharks. The best time to approach is when the shark is busy tucking into the bait. Fred approaches directly above the shark. But the tip of the harpoon bounces off the tough skin of the shark. Will tries a different strategy. He stays on the seabed until he spots a chance to shoot. He lies in wait like a hunter. And the chance arrives. The shark passes him at close range. But still, Will decides against a shot. He could easily injure the animal from this angle. They have to get the timing exactly right, and they need a double dose of luck. Eventually, success. The transmitter is secure. A hard day's work for the freedivers.
The hammerhead has very tough skin. The first shot, Fred was, for any other shark, perfect position, close enough, but it bounced off. So, and the rush was on to retrieve the tag, reload the gun, replace the tag, and then wait for the animal to return. But the second shot was perfect.
It's very difficult animal to work with.
They don't come from the direction you expect.
But the thing is, it's not arriving upstream like other sharks. It's always, the first time, every time he was on the site, it comes downstream.
Yeah, they don't come from the direction the current is flowing. They come from with the
usually
current.
Every sea creature is coming up current.
Yeah.
And these things are going down current.
Yeah.
So maybe they saw us feel it before and do a big turn and come back to get
I think they scent it and they go around and they
but
come.
usually they just go to the source.
The dive team has completed their work, but this is only the beginning for the scientists. They now have to hope that the transmitter can collect as much data as possible. When it eventually returns from the depths of the ocean, it will cast some light on the secret life of the king of the sharks.
Every time you work with a new species, you have to adapt because the shark won't adapt to you, of course. So basically the techniques are the same. I use the sinking technique we use in spearfishing or weighting technique at the bottom. But you always have to trim it because every animal reacts differently. The great hammerhead is very fast, won't stay long on site, turning around. It just satisfies his curiosity and then leaves. Other sharks will stay there for half an hour and you have a lot of time to figure out how you're going to work with him. So you have to be very, very adaptive. And I noticed that within the hammerheads, they also have different personalities. One was more, I would say, curious about us and stayed a bit longer and came back every 5-6 minutes. He was coming back, but another one just came 30 seconds and left. We haven't seen him. So you really have to be prepared and adaptive. That's also the fun part of that job. But it's probably the most difficult shark I had to work with, and probably one of the most difficult thing I ever did freediving, to tag that hammerhead. Even though it was in 15 or 16 meters of water, not a long dive, but just the dedication, the timing, the mindset, and all that, putting everything together. You had a lot of current that day, and also being able to have a camera not too far. It was very difficult to put everything together for success. So it was probably one of the most difficult things I did freediving.
The island of Rurutu in the South Pacific. An exceptional team of divers with a set of specialist skills is about to embark on a journey in the tracks of humpback whales. Their aim? To study the whales in an unusually intimate way.
I think freediving is a very good way to explore the underwater world, and it's probably the less invasive way of exploring the underwater world.
In spite of their massive size, whales are extremely shy animals and difficult to approach. Most people are only ever tolerated for a few seconds.
There's still a lot to learn because we still have an estimation about 15,000 animals, maybe humpbacks in South Hemisphere, but among them only a few proportion has been identified with pictures.
To explore their secret lives beneath the waves, it is essential to meet the whales in their element and on their terms.
These whales are enormous. They're not small fish. They weigh 30 tons. That's a bit like an approaching bus. They are really majestic.
Rurutu is a tiny island in the middle of the South Pacific. Discovered by James Cook in 1769, it now forms part of French Polynesia. Few visitors ever set foot on this isolated island, so its greatest asset is its unspoilt wilderness. Only 7 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide, it lies far off the main shipping routes. But it does lie right in the path of another very special route, the migration of the humpback whales. They were once hunted by the native peoples, but today, French Polynesia has been turned into a unique conservation area for marine mammals. Diving with conventional equipment is strictly prohibited here. It makes it an unusually safe and peaceful haven for the humpback whales. And this is where they come during the harsh winter months in their Antarctic feeding grounds. It is an epic annual trip of 7,000 kilometers. Although humpback whales tend to be loners, it is possible to find whole groups of them here. It is an ideal place for a whale nursery. The cows give birth to their calves in these warm tropical waters. Here their young are safe from deep-sea predators and protected from violent storms. It is mid-September. The intense tropical colors typical of these South Pacific islands have vanished, and Rurutu is immersed in the threatening gray of a tropical storm. The weather is unusually unpredictable and threatening. It's been raining for days. The idea of spotting whales just off the shoreline remains a distant dream. These are bad conditions for the freedivers Frederic Buyle and William Winram. Their expedition to find and catalog the whales could be in jeopardy. They're on their way to assist Cécile Gaspard, the founder of the Polynesian conservation organization Te Mana o Te Moana, or Spirit of the Ocean.
Hello. Welcome to Polynesia.
Ah,
How are you?
cool weather.
How was the trip?
Good.
Yeah, it's good weather. Tomorrow is better.
En plus, depuis ce matin, je suis un peu malade, donc
The weather forecasts are very vague. The team can only hope for the best.
Oui.
So we go tomorrow morning.
Yes.
The whales have been seen around, so we have a lot of luck.
Good.
And
Great.
so, let's go.
Okay.
Okay, go.
Okay.
Finding the whales in the waters around Rurutu is usually not a problem, but they need better weather to conduct Cécile's study effectively.
A lot of studies have been done on whales and other marine creatures for the past decade, and it's very interesting to get information. We know, for example, the whaling has damaged a lot of this population, and we also know now with our study that the population is in a better shape. It starts to reproduce, and we hope this is going on the good side, but we're not sure because there are so many changes in the world that maybe our hope right now is going to be completely different in a few years. The new kind of research we have been developing with Fred, going on the water with the whale and be very comfortable as a whale, in the water, is going to help us having new type of information and also share it with other people. And this is one of the key where if we could study wildlife without too much interference, we may get more information, more accurate information without too much disturbance. And so we hope that this is a new step in research, and that could be maybe an example worldwide about how humans can use this ability to adapt to nature to better study it.
Finding a whale requires discipline and patience. Since whales tend to keep their bodies mostly submerged, it means having to spot a whale's back as it's about to dive. Even better is to search for the blow, the cloud of fine spray when the whale exhales on surfacing.
Oh, whales just blow behind us.
But even once a whale is spotted, getting into the water with them and obtaining useful images is far from easy.
The first thing is to locate the whale, since it's always in motion. When it's moving, it's tough to film it. So you have to wait until it finds a resting place. If you're watching a mother with her calf, you can wait until she feeds the baby. Then the whale will remain calm and still, and you can carefully enter the water. Right now, that's not possible. This whale is swimming around the island. It's moving, and we can't film it.
The search for whales is tough and time-consuming. Even once a blow has been spotted, there's no guarantee that the whale will continue its travels in the same direction underwater. And actually getting into the water to attempt a closer encounter is only worth it when it's certain there's still a whale in the vicinity. The only option is to keep your eyes peeled and constantly evaluate the situation. But the team will also have to keep an eye on the tourist whale-watching boats.
The danger when you are involved in ocean activities, it's always human. It's never the creature or the weather or anything, it's always human. And here the biggest problem is that we have like 4 boats around the whales, so you have to be very careful not to be run over by one of the boats. And moreover, when a day like that with not a lot of sun, all the colors are the same on the water, and our wetsuit are quite dark, and you have to be very careful. So that's why we have to spot each other with William in order not to be run over.
But the whale watchers give up. Fred and the team have more patience and continue their search. Finally, a humpback whale. The camera team gets ready. They will watch Fred from a distance. Diving is usually strictly prohibited in the area. The loud noise associated with conventional diving equipment agitates the animals, and since they're supposed to be left in peace to mate and raise their new calves, these disturbances are not tolerated. But the freediving team has special permission to observe the whales underwater. freedivers are different. They move silently through the water. Years of training allow them to spend several minutes at a time below the surface. They are perfect underwater observers. They can search for the whales without the help of noisy technology and wait patiently until an opportunity arises to get close to the animals. But the whales are very alert. Despite the freedivers' utmost care, they soon put an end to their rest period and move on. The good news for the team is that they don't seem to be nervous. They even take the time to investigate the divers. It bodes well for any future encounters. Fred can clearly observe and document the unique patterns on the whale's delicate underside. Conditions improve. The weather gradually clears up. But for now, the team's luck has run out, and they don't spot any more whales. Fred and Will decide to find out more about the indigenous population who used to hunt whales around the island. Perhaps they can shed some light on the best places to find the whales. They visit the caves in which the original inhabitants lived, and from where they would look out for passing whales. The steep cliffs provided not only protection but also a good vantage point to scan the sea. Calm and protected bays allowed them to go out to sea even in rough weather. But reaching the caves is anything but easy and involves traversing difficult terrain. The caves themselves are also dangerous. Without a guide, it's easy to get lost in this underground network of chambers and tunnels. The native people had vantage points scattered across the island from where they could observe the whales. Rurutu's hills reach almost 400 meters above the sea level. There are no sign-posted paths up here. Time for a rest beneath some spectacular stalactites. Even today, there are still people on the island who remember the old whaling days and their ancestors' traditions. Fred has been told about Mama Pare, one of the oldest islanders. She's written a book about the history of Rurutu. Perhaps she can explain the whale's current elusiveness after their initial brief encounter.
Là, en fait, ça fait plusieurs jours qu'on est...
We've been here for several days already, and we still haven't come close to any whales. Are there years when there aren't any whales here?
En fait, toutes les années, il y avait eu des baleines, mais on a entendu dire
The whales come every year. American and Japanese whalers killed hundreds of them, so now we see a lot less of them than in the past. Now the fishermen have to go on long journeys. But usually you still see a lot of whales here. They amuse themselves. You can watch them from the beach as they jump out of the water.
It's a disadvantage for you since you've not been allowed to hunt whales for years, but the Japanese still kill many.
We caught one whale in 1930 and then the last one in 1957. That's over 20 years later.
You didn't catch any whales for 20 years?
No, not a single one.
Do you think that they'll come back soon?
There are some around. A few people saw one not long ago. They told us it was a mother with her calf.
Fred has also been told about another sign of whale season on Rurutu, and he decides to follow it up. It's the flowering of the whale tree. a fisherman takes Fred to this special tree.
Okay.
So the tree is in full bloom at the beginning of the whale season. Yes, that's when it's covered in blossoms. When it begins to flower, it means that the whales have arrived. That's when the whaling season starts. That's right. And what happens when the trees finish flowering? That's when the whales have gone. So we may have come at the end of the season. Yes.
If this bit of local folklore is correct, the team has come here at the right time. But then there's another setback. Sirens sound an alarm. There's been a fax from Papeete, the capital of Polynesia. It's a tsunami warning. Nobody seems to have concrete information. The team desperately tries to find out more.
I'm in contact with France. It's possible this is the last chance to be in touch before the tsunami hits. They know that we're taking all necessary precautions to evacuate people.
So we stay here until it arrives? I guess. See what it looks like?
The island's shoreline is quickly evacuated. Technical equipment is packed and everyone hastily retreats to higher ground. The wait begins. The tsunami hits Samoa and kills 120 people, but it doesn't reach Rurutu. The island has a lucky escape. For the expedition, the first few days on the island have been very disappointing. So when a call from Dr. Michael Poole, a humpback whale expert on Mourir, reaches the dive team, they're quick to take up the opportunity. Dr. Poole would be interested to meet them. Mourir is one of the Society Islands, 600 kilometers to the northeast of Rurutu. Its bigger neighbor is Tahiti. It is located right in the heart of the conservation area for marine mammals that was established in 2002. Lush vegetation and high trees cover the island, and imposing volcanic peaks rise up from the sea. It is the essence of tropical tranquility. The bright turquoise bays with their deep, clear waters are lined with a protective fringe reef that reaches right around the island. Dr. Poole has been based here for the last 15 years. He's the director of the Marine Mammal Research Program at the Island Research Center and Environmental Observatory. He's one of the driving forces behind the setup of the whale and dolphin sanctuary.
Every time we find an answer or partial answer to one question, there are 5 other questions that pop up. And some basic things that we do not know. How do whales navigate? We don't know. How do they find their breeding ground? How do they find their feeding ground? 7,000 kilometers distance between Antarctica and here in Tahiti. And how do they undertake that migration and we find some of the same whales coming back different years to the same island. How do they do that? We don't know. The song of the humpback whales, the males that sing the song, what is it really for? We have different hypotheses, but no one is totally sure really what's going on. Why does the song change during a season and over years? Why does the song evolve over time? We don't know this at all. And so we're searching. Every day we're out. Every week we're out. Every month and over years to try to find answers to these questions. Myself, my colleagues, our students, all trying to find answers to these questions. We've never lost that fascination because there's so much that we don't understand. And another reason why you and your ability to dive deeply and stay long is valuable to our research is that you can photograph the underside of the individual or the side of the individual. And with your photographs, we can sex the individual.
Freediving has a long tradition in Tahiti. Both fishermen and pearl divers have used the technique for hundreds of years. Local knowledge is always invaluable, and the Tahitian freediver Matana Taimana accompanies Fred on his next dive. On the way, she has a chance to show Fred a very special local attraction: stingrays that show no fear of humans. Christian Petron gets his equipment ready. The stingrays are already waiting right under the boat. Due to the venomous barbs on their tails, they have a reputation as lethal marine creatures, but here, they're at ease and don't pose a significant threat. Elegantly gliding through the water, the rays live up to their docile reputation and don't respond nervously to the divers. But to find humpback whales, the divers have to leave these shallow waters. The tireless search for the whales begins again. Dr. Poole doesn't usually work with divers. He tends to watch and identify the animals from the surface using a catalog of photographs. Humpback whales have completely individual tail fins, distinct both in shape and coloration. Occasionally, the whales give spectacular, even acrobatic performances. They emerge from the water and thrash the surface with their tail fins. These may be attempts to rid themselves of irritating parasites. The energetic spectacle means that fragments of whale skin come loose, which the scientists quickly gather from the water. It allows them to analyze the animal's DNA. Over time, they can piece together a more and more detailed description of each individual. Fred prepares for a dive. Should a whale approach, he has to be ready. Christian is only too aware that it will take a bit of luck to get the chance to film Fred near the whales. It can mean hours of waiting, ready to get in the water in minutes. Patience is one of the absolute requirements to make it as a wildlife filmmaker. Then they're in luck. They spot a whale cow with her calf. They seem to be resting near the surface. There's no time to lose. Fred always makes the first explorative dive on his own. By the time the other divers manage to reach the required depths, the whale may have already moved on. This time, luck is on their side. The whale calf is not at all shy, even playful, while its mother is having a rest further down. It's a one-off chance for a close encounter. The divers have to be very careful. Even a calf's tail fin could wreak havoc. But this intimate meeting of the whale baby and the freediver is over all too soon. The mother eventually intervenes, and the two majestic marine mammals move on. But then Fred spots another opportunity. A school of pilot whales passes nearby. For a few minutes, Fred can swim alongside them. Pilot whales are being followed. An oceanic white-tipped shark is on their tails. This is a formidable predator, reaching around 3 meters in length. But the whales are safe in its company. Oceanic white-tipped sharks are often found in the company of pilot whales, although the reason for this association is not fully understood. It's a breathtaking experience for Fred.
For a few seconds, a few minutes, I'm really part of the environment as one of the inhabitants of that environment. I try not to bring my human abilities with me, but try really to forget about them, bury them somewhere in my brain, and just being like an animal or part of the area I'm diving. Freediving allows you to do that.
And as Fred becomes one with his environment, the animals he encounters seem to perceive him as one of them. He can witness their behavior in an entirely different way. Tracking whales is laborious and time-consuming, but there are some shortcuts. Sometimes it's possible to hear these giants before you see them. And Fred's luck hasn't run out yet. Photographs like these can only be taken underwater. They're a very welcome addition to the whale researchers' catalog.
So maybe we can talk about this mark now?
That's really pretty, Fred. I mean, from an aesthetic viewpoint, it's absolutely beautiful. Nice marks, yes. And look how these throat pleats bifurcate. Can you go backwards just a second? Right here, splitting into two, indeed, allowing more spread, more expansion as it takes in water and food. Very, very nice.
These detailed photographs of the whale's unique markings are invaluable to Dr. Poole's research. Working from the boat, he would normally be unable to take any pictures as detailed as these.
We can actually identify whales not only by their tails, not only by their dorsal fins, we can identify them by their pleats. They are different for every individual. Great photograph, Fred. Yeah, truly, really nice.
But Fred soon has to return to Rurutu to continue his original mission. It isn't looking positive, Will has told him that the team still haven't managed to sight any whales. This is highly unusual for this time of year. Normally, there are always several whale groups in the area. Could there be a connection with the disturbance of the storms or the tsunami? Not a blow anywhere to be seen. A frustrating wait for the divers.
Nothing yet.
In the past, they had sometimes a period of 1 week to 10 days with no animals because they go to other islands.
Okay.
So hopefully it's the case and they just left for 1 week or so, but still it's apparently like 8 days now they haven't seen a whale.
We have to keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best.
Fred tries to stay optimistic. He knows only too well the value of his abilities to a mission like Cecile's.
The best example of the difference between scuba diving and freediving is that, for example, in many places it's forbidden to scuba dive with the animals, like whales, dolphins, sharks, or even reefs. And the scientists understood that it's disturbing a lot. Most of the time, freediving is allowed. For example, here in Rurutu, you cannot scuba dive with the whales, but you can freedive. With freediving, you don't disturb them as much. But of course, with freediving, you can also disturb whales. Huh? It doesn't mean you just part of the water and they don't notice you. But the general disturbance is smaller with freediving. But you still have to be careful when you approach them, to approach them from front, not from behind, otherwise they feel you and they go away. And try always to be in their field of vision. It's not because you're a freediver that you can go everywhere and do whatever you want. You still have to keep an ethic to your work and the way you work with animals. It's not, I would say, a general visa, being a freediver. You still have to be careful.
The team continues their efforts. Again, the boat is loaded with equipment and supplies. They're committed to their mission. But for Cecile, too, time is running out. She's expected back on Mourir. So Christian wants to try a different tactic to track down the whales. He has a special hydrophone, a microphone for underwater recordings. Encased in a watertight housing, this highly sensitive microphone registers sound waves underwater and records them. Christian's plan is to listen for signs of the whales just like on Mourir. And if you can hear a whale, you can also find it. Today, conditions at least are very favorable. The visibility is good and the sea relatively calm. Fred and Will get into position in the water. Christian lets the hydrophone drift around 10 meters below the surface. And the tactic seems to be working. They pick up some interesting sounds. And these are special. They clearly originate from a whale. The problem is to work out the direction from which the sounds are coming. Finally, success. They've come across a singer. Whales take up a particular position in the water when they're about to sing. They remain motionless in the water column, head down and fins outstretched. Underwater, it's actually possible to feel the powerful sound waves. The exact method of generating the sounds is unclear. Unlike land animals, the whales don't exhale while producing them. It's possible they manage to recycle air within their bodies to continue their songs without having to breathe. For the divers, this encounter with a singing humpback whale was a first real success in their mission near Rurutu. They return to dry land and prepare to brief Cécile in the evening with precious underwater images as well as observations of the behavior witnessed. Male humpback whales sing during the mating season. It's possible they're trying to attract a mate with their serenades. But their songs could also serve to keep potential rivals at bay. Studies have shown that different whale populations have their own distinct songs. The tunes the males produce are complicated and travel for hundreds of kilometers underwater. The different sounds combine to produce individual verses, which are repeated in a particular order and are constantly developed further. Cécile explains to Fred why she is so interested in more information about the whales.
What is your hope for the future?
So I think even if we feel there's been very good action in the past, we still need to go and do more, and we need to go very fast. So I think whales are very appealing to people, and if really there's a message that whales are still threatened by all the human activity, even if it's not hunting, but now it's pollution and global warming, then we hope that these people may be more sensitive to react. We also found that when people had close contact with a wild animal, they feel they know this animal better, they feel it different way, and when they come back home, they are like, okay, now maybe I'm going to recycle my trash. So we try.
The divers are eager to continue their work the next day, but they don't get very far. The engine breaks down. Without engine power, the boat drifts helplessly and threatens to run aground on the reef. They have to abandon their whale search before it even started. The priority now is to call a rescue boat.
Faites un signe au bateau qui viennent bien vers nous tout de suite. Christian, faites signe au bateau qui viennent. Can you use that, please? Attention à déborder, préparez-vous à déborder.
They've been lucky to escape with no further damage. But it's a further disappointment. For today, they're unable to start another excursion. Fred and Will try to spend their time usefully and visit the next village to stock up on supplies. Around lunchtime, after school, the place comes alive with young people.
People are very friendly here at Rurutu. You see it's a very small island, so everybody knows each other. When you walk in the street, people say hi. Everybody's really friendly. You can go everywhere. They give you fruit from the garden. You can ask them to pick up fruit from the garden if you need. People are so friendly.
Other than exuberant wilderness, Rurutu doesn't have much to offer its visitors. The villages are not packed with tourist attractions, but customs have to be kept alive in traditional crafts, which are one of the main forms of income for the islanders. But there are one or two surprises in store for the divers. Rurutu also has French roots after all. The divers need to have a high-calorie intake, and they found just the place to get them.
I did not expect to find this on this small, remote island. No.
You know, it's French Polynesia. They have some traditions.
Wow.
While their boat is being repaired, they can only wait and watch while others demonstrate their diving prowess. A new day brings fresh hope, but although the sun's out, diving conditions are bad. The divers want to reach the open sea through a pass in the island's fringe reef. There are only a handful of these gates in the reef. Things aren't going to plan.
With the condition today, there's no way the boat can pick you up on the other side.
No.
It's too rough.
It's way too rough.
For us conventional divers, big waves aren't a problem. We can dive under them. But for the free divers, it's impossible because they get overrun by the waves and can't prepare their dives.
Even the stunning South Pacific beaches are no consolation. The divers are again forced to wait until wind and waves calm down. Eventually, they're able to try their luck once again. This time, the start is more promising. Now they have to follow the whales. A last equipment check. They've managed to find a whale cow with her calf. They're an ideal target for the divers, since the pair will definitely have a rest period at some point. The divers continuously check that they haven't lost the whales. They don't want to take any chances and miss their long-awaited chance of a close encounter with the whales of Rurutu. Finally, things seem to be going their way. They can risk approaching the animals face to face underwater. The whale mother remains motionless in the depths, resting. Floating upright in the water column, her eyes lifted towards the surface, she keeps an eye on her baby. The calf is very curious, playful and exuberant. Although still a baby, it is already an enormous animal and dwarfs Fred. It seems curious about this silent intruder into its underwater world and shows no signs of nervousness. On this occasion, Fred has enough time to watch the animal closely and catalog its distinctive marks in detail. It's a unique and rare opportunity to meet these mysterious creatures on their own terms and in their own element, before finally it's time for the mother and calf to move on. This mission turned out to be no easy task for Fred and the team, but despite all the setbacks, they've been successful in delivering some important underwater images of the Rurutu whales. They will provide valuable information and identification clues for the researchers.
These are the picture I took the other day of the mother and calf. The calf was very playful. We had to be careful because he was really like a little kid, little pup. He didn't know where to put his fins, so we had to be careful.
So you have a very good access to the belly.
Yes.
You know, and so this is a very distinctive mark that will grow with the animal, of course. Did you get an estimation of the size?
The size, I think it was around 6 meters long.
Okay.
It was young, but from this year for sure, but maybe 1.5 months old already. It was just not a newborn.
Okay. So, you know, Fred, this is very important because this kind of marks on the skin that are so distinctive and so impressive, they are going to stay all alive. So this animal, if it's seen in 1 month, 2 months, 10 years, 20 years, maybe 40 years, you can tell this is the same animal that was spotted by you in Rurutu this year. So that's very interesting.
Maybe during my next trip to Antarctica, I might bump into that whale again.
Exactly. So this is how it's very important for not only researchers, but tourists and any people who have access to whales and take pictures to be able to download the pictures to this very extensive catalog. And then if you have specific red mark like that, or natural mark like that, they should be labeled so people could find them again.
Yes, I'm always happy when one of my picture can be used for something else than just being a picture. If it can help and improve the knowledge about these animals, it's great.
It's great. I mean, it's a great picture, you know, but it will be also used by.
I was really fascinated by the pattern of that birthmark. It's just I've never seen that before.
Part of the fascination people seem to have developed for the whales here must surely also lie with their exotic summer territories, the South Pacific.
What we find here in islands like Rurutu, it's the Pacific Islands 150 years ago. For me, the Humpback whales are the most fascinating whales, because every year they do thousands and thousands of kilometers to go from their feeding ground in Antarctica back here in the South Pacific Island to rest and mate and have the babies, and then go all the way back with the newborn babies in the feeding ground of Antarctica. And that's a mystery because they do this very, very dangerous journey twice a year.
It's fascinating to watch them, how they move in the water. It's awe-inspiring to feel so small. When you're next to an enormous whale, you feel tiny.
And sometimes when I'm freediving with a whale here in Rurutu, when they sleep, they lay at 25 meters, I look at the whale and I say, yeah, that's a wonderful life. It's the whale therapy. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, all your problem disappears when you see a creature like that, because it's so big, it's there for like thousands and thousands of years. It's just perfect creature and peaceful. And after spending time with them, yeah, you change, for sure, you change. By themselves, they can change you from inside. They can really do that.
Freediver Frederic Buyle is on an extraordinary quest. For thousands of years, the Mediterranean had been abused and turned into a veritable cesspool by the people living along its shores. Now he wants to take stock. What condition will he find the Mediterranean in? And how have people changed this underwater world? His extraordinary freediving abilities, sensitivity, and not least his courage allow Frederic to become part of his underwater surroundings. He manages to uncover spectacular secrets that remain hidden to most. Only a diver that behaves like a fish is able to really get close to them. His noiseless and extremely flexible diving technique allows him to investigate places that remain out of reach for conventional divers. He can experience this world in a new way. He's searching for traces of the underwater paradise that the Mediterranean used to be. 50 kilometers off the French coastline near Marseille lies the Galabon, ready to begin a 3-week expedition of the Mediterranean. The Mediterranean has a surface area of around 2.5 million square kilometers and is among the most ravaged sea regions in the world. On board, an unusual team, anxious to begin their mission. It includes a renowned underwater cinematographer and 2 of the best freedivers in the world. Christian Petron has a wealth of experience, including Luc Besson's cult movie, The Big Blue. The Belgian Frederic Buyle, former world record holder that has now devoted himself to underwater photography. His security diver is the record-breaking freediver William Winram.
So I heard from a lot of people that there's not much life in the Med, and I've only dove around Nice and a few other places, and not seen a lot of fish. So don't know what to expect.
You'll be surprised. With Christian, we're going to show you some of the nicest places, and it will change your idea about the Mediterranean Sea forever.
Really?
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
Finally, the expedition gets underway. They're heading east to the island of Porquerolles and the wreck of the Donateur, the remains of a freighter that hit a mine after the end of World War II and sank. Wrecks have always been favorite dive spots, not least because of the sense of mystery and danger that surrounds them.
For me, that kind of dive is the essence of freediving. It's what I like to do in freediving, because going to 50 meter zone with current, no visibility, no line to guide you, and just use your senses to get, somehow it's a sixth sense to find the wreck, because you don't know exactly where it is. You feel maybe the big metallic mass at the bottom of the sea to guide you. I think that's the essence of freediving.
Okay, this morning we look for diving on the Donateur. Is a wreck sinking during just after the World War II. Very, very nice work.
We have to do a good diving plan. William and I will be able to do 4 dives, not more. Also, on the wreck, when we arrive first, there's a lot of chance to see a big school of fish with dentex, bream, and sar. So we have to be very silent when we arrive on top of the wreck, not to scare them away. If they are there, it's very spectacular. You will see a lot of fish. The problem is in the middle of the channel between these 2 islands, which means you have a lot of current there. That's why it's a rich wreck, but also it makes a very difficult dive. Okay, let's go.
Let's go.
From their base on the Galabon, the team approaches the Donateur's wreck site with a more versatile Zodiac. The weather looks promising, but it gives little indication of the conditions below the water surface. Currents, visibility, and water temperature are all unknown. For dives like this one in considerable depths, everything has to be just right, no matter how experienced the divers might be. The remains of this dead ship are overrun with life. It seems nature has conquered the barren bleakness of human technology and turned it into a true paradise. The colors revealed by the spotlights are incredible. And although the color red is swallowed up in the blue depths, it is there, spectacularly exposed by the artificial light. This dive is a serious challenge for the freedivers. Just to get here and back, they have to cover over 100 meters on a single breath. Once at the wreck, they have to be careful to conserve energy to avoid a potential blackout on the way back. Reefs are like underwater islands in the blue expanse of the ocean. They offer shelter and food for all kinds of underwater creatures. And while the wreck of the Donateur is an artificial island, it has been here for over 60 years, allowing masses of organisms to colonizing it, turning it into a true underwater city. The wreck attracts divers in droves. On resurfacing, Fred and Will have to be extremely careful not to be hit by the numerous boats. A collision with the ship's propeller could be fatal.
Bonne journée. Bonne journée.
Underwater, peace and quiet prevails. Until the scuba divers arrive. Everything changes dramatically. The exhaled bubbles from all these divers now dominate the wreck. Mud is whirled up from the seabed. The fish retreat. For Fred, there is nothing left to see here.
It's really interesting. When we arrived, our first two dives at 20 meters, You can see the wreck clearly. Now, with all the movement on it and all the sediment being stirred up, at 20 it's barely visible.
Muppet show down there. Of already 110 divers. With that boat arriving, will be more than 150 on the same dive spot. It's just crazy.
Voilà. 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 Okay. Voilà.
It's time for the divers to have a rest. For Christian Petron, this expedition is part of a personal mission. 25 years ago, he already documented the catastrophic pollution of the French Mediterranean to raise awareness of its enormous scale.
Voilà, regarde. Ça, c'est des images tournées au Cap.
These are the pictures we filmed 25 years ago in front of Marseille. There was absolutely no treatment of the raw sewage, nothing. No, nothing was treated. This was practically the toilet for 300,000 people. It all went directly into the sea. It was a real cesspool. We went diving here to show the damage to the coastal waters. Everything was dead here. The fish, all dead. It was a disaster.
Shocking pictures like these were part of the trigger for one of the most progressive environmental projects in the Mediterranean. A massive artificial reef in the Bay of Marseille. Sandrine Rurutu from the Université de la Méditerranée is the scientific leader of the project. She takes Fred out to the reef. This project could be compared to the reforestation of a desert.
This is the map of the artificial reefs. That's interesting because we've built several ecosystems next to each other which benefit from each other, as you can see. The inside of the artificial reef is made up of concrete boxes. They allow a complex structure and provide a variety of living spaces for different species.
The buoy is there for the diver's orientation. From the surface, it's impossible to make out this new-built estate for underwater creatures. It lies at a depth of around 20 or 30 meters. Hobby divers and fishermen are banned from this area. Disturbances are to be kept to a minimum. But the freediver's sensitive and unobtrusive technique is ideal. Fred approaches the artificial reef cautiously. He's concerned not to scare any of its residents away. But visibility is very poor, and Fred has to move closer. He is completely noiseless. It's his only chance to catch a glimpse of the shy fish.
Je me suis approché par le fond.
I dived from below and approached the reef from below. Above it, I saw a few sea bream there.
Sur le sommet.
Oh, that's interesting. That's an important fish. And you've surely seen a lot of little fish as well.
Oui, ils sont dans la structure, ils bougent pas.
Yeah, that's right. But I didn't disturb them.
Je les ai pas dérangés.
Sandrine takes pictures of the organisms that have begun to settle here. Algae and invertebrates are the first to take up residence and form the basis of a new food chain.
Yeah, interesting. It's a big structure and a lot of fish just swimming on top of it. And the fish noticed my presence, but they were not too afraid. And then when I started to be really on the reef, they went slowly in open water. But it's interesting to see it works. That structure really works to aggregate fish. It's very interesting.
The developments are documented meticulously. A mass of factors influence the success or failure of the project. Currents, depth, and the structure of the build are all instrumental. But the divers don't just find signs of the gradual settlement of the new reef. Sandrine also finds a fishing net that has got caught in the structure. It is a definite sign that fishermen are ignoring the no-go zone. Artificial reefs are only part of the efforts to bring life back to the coastal waters of the Mediterranean. The most important step was to build sewage treatment works to restore the water quality sufficiently to support life. Sandrine shows Fred the progress made in the structure's settlement. Some fish are beginning to return. They, in turn, will provide food for bigger fish in the future. And the project's success will be directly beneficial for local people too. The small fishermen of Marseille will once again be able to make their living right outside their city. It will take decades for the sea to recover completely. There is now a glimmer of hope. The expedition's next destination is Corsica. This is an exceptional location for divers. The visibility of the water is famous, and there are more than just shipwrecks to explore beneath the waves. Just outside the town of Calvi, an American bomber crashed into the sea. Unlike the wreck of the Donateur, hardly any life has settled here. Perhaps it's simply too small to make an attractive home for fish. Not far away lies the nature reserve of Scondola, where Fred has been given an exceptional permission to dive. For all other divers, this area is a strict no-go zone. The sheer diversity of life here is not at all evident from the word go. But Scondola is home to some exceptional treasures of the Mediterranean Sea. Huge rock outcrops have created an exceptional habitat complete with canyons and rock overhangs that provide secure living quarters for a myriad of creatures. And that applies not only to fish, but also a completely different type of organism, the rare red corals of the Mediterranean. Red corals are strictly protected here. They've been popular assets for jewelry for thousands of years, but over time, their merciless exploitation has reduced their numbers greatly. But the beauty of these corals is most evident when they're still alive. Once turned into jewelry, nothing is left of the fragile coral polyps that once lived in these calcareous structures. Occasionally, there are also completely white corals. The hordes of hobby divers found on the wreck of the Donateur would be a disaster for this finely tuned ecosystem. It would spell the end for this coral colony. But long-term observations have shown that these coral colonies are gradually improving. Harvesting corals has been a long tradition in Corsica. But these days, only a handful of professional coral divers are still allowed to harvest them outside the protected areas. In Bonifacio, in the south of Corsica, Fred meets Jean-Philippe Giordano, one of the last men to make his living from the corals. He's not only a diver, but also crafts the coral jewelry himself. The coralleur has become an extremely rare occupation. Jean-Philippe knows the few hidden places along the coast of Bonifacio where corals can still be found. While Fred dives without the aid of air tanks, just like the coral divers of the past, modern scuba diving equipment allows a much longer search underwater. But despite this, being a coral diver is still very dangerous. The long dives at considerable depths have cost many a coral collector their life. Jean-Philippe collects the corals by hand, and only as many as he can currently work on. One of the reasons why corals cannot be cultivated is that their growth rates are extremely slow, only a few millimeters every year. So it takes decades for the tiny polyps to build up a structure of just a few centimeters. Collecting them is back-breaking work. The coralleur has to leave many corals standing to allow them sufficient time to recover. To follow Jean-Philippe, Fred has to dive to almost 50 meters. There are hardly any corals left in shallower waters. The industrial harvest of corals involves nets that are dragged over the ground and destroy large areas of the seabed completely. It is now strictly prohibited around Corsica. There is hope that over time these protective measures will allow coral stocks to recover here. But the successful search for corals is only the beginning of the coralleur's work. Even today, the most beautiful corals used for jewelry still come from the Mediterranean. While most other types of corals cannot be used for jewelry because they're too brittle, the Mediterranean coral has a particularly beautiful colored, hard calcareous exoskeleton that can be worked on with ease. Legend has it that the corals were made from the blood of the Medusa when Perseus cut off her head. Today, their color only serves as a reminder of the beautiful contrast of the red corals against the blue of the sea. Back at the coast of the French Mediterranean, Fred visits one of the oldest nature reserves here, the island of Poole. It is under constant observation from park rangers to ensure its protection. Port was turned into a French national park in 1963. It was the first national park in Europe that combines both land and sea. The island is surrounded by a protected zone of 600 meters, which includes a number of smaller islets. Once in private ownership, the island was turned over to the French state by its former owners, under the provision that the island's natural beauty would be preserved and the building of hotels prohibited. Fred meets the representative of the park's management, Nicolas Gératin. He's particularly proud that the endangered stocks of dusky groupers in this protected area are gradually beginning to recover.
The increase in the populations of groupers are very significant because we were counting about 40 groupers in l'îlot de la Gabinière in 1985, and now we are about to 200 on this same place, and altogether it's between 500 and 600 around the island. In 1985 we had something like 40 groupers and about 1,200 dive every year. If you compare 1,200 dive, 1,200 flashlights towards 40 groupers, they might get mad in a few months, you know, because no one of us could stand such a treatment. The other problem was that it's easier to make a photograph of a grouper to make him come towards you than to try and chase him. The groupers love boiled eggs. 40 groupers, 1,200 boiled eggs. They might be sick in a few weeks if everybody brings boiled eggs. So we had to avoid the people and recommend to the divers that they wouldn't bring any food to the fish, because apart from the fish, we need to maintain a biological chain and not interfere with it.
I think the National Park of Porco were a pioneer in a way to use apneists and freedivers for scientific work.
The apnea is the best way. It's the most natural way to get into the water, the most silent way without any noise in the water, but also any noise outside when you have to pump the lungs and all the logistic which is behind.
The waters of Port are now so carefully monitored that to dive here requires a special permission from the National Park authorities. It is only granted if the strict regulations are followed. To conduct population surveys of dusky groupers, the rangers tend to work together with freedivers like Fred. It means minimum disturbance to the environment and its inhabitants. Since the fish are curious and not at all shy, they make an easy target for hunters. And although population numbers of dusky groupers in these protected waters have increased tenfold in the last decade, they are still an endangered species. Only during the mating season do the males get a little testy and see anything and anyone as a potential rival. Under the water surface, the visitor is confronted with a myriad of different landscapes. Rocky mountains are dissected with light valleys covered with seagrass. The seagrass meadows are home to an astonishing array of animals and plants, and their dense roots help to stabilize the sea floor. But this delicate carpet is easily damaged by dragnets and ship's anchors. And since seagrass grows and recolonizes only slowly, entire underwater meadows can be quickly and seriously damaged, threatening the survival of the entire habitat. It's a tranquil underwater oasis on the edge. But there is a completely different underwater world, one hidden from view. Fred and Will prepare to meet a particular challenge, a journey into the deep, with no easy escape to the water surface. Caves, dark, hidden, and mysterious. This is a world that puts high demands on the abilities of the freedivers. The entrance alone lies 20 meters below the surface. It harbors a bizarre spectacle. Stalactites and stalagmites are witnesses of a bygone age when this cave lay suspended high above the water surface. But what happens if the divers run out of air? It is impossible to resurface right in the middle of the cave. But there is a secret air-filled chamber. Since the oxygen content of this air is very low, they have to use it with care. The divers cannot afford to waste this precious reserve. They will need it for the return journey. Nevertheless, the divers can go on small excursions from here. For the flexible freedivers, this maze of stone doesn't pose a threat, but a diver with air tanks might find himself in peril. The cumbersome equipment could get caught in the nooks and crannies. The divers find no signs of life in the darkness of this cave. Time to make the journey back to the cave entrance, back to fresh air. To survive such a dangerous adventure requires supreme ability, self-control, and fitness. It is nothing for the faint-hearted. Fred describes what he has seen to Christian.
Là, vous étiez dans la vasque.
Ouais, c'était vraiment une super expérience.
This cave was really an amazing experience. Even the journey into the cavern was worth it. It's superb, but we had to be very careful.
Vous êtes resté quand même 62 minutes.
En tout?
Yes, you were gone for 62 minutes from the moment you started your dive. From the boat, we could see you disappear, and then you didn't resurface for 62 minutes. We had to be careful. It was a little dicey getting through that maze of stalactites and stalagmites, but it was an amazing experience. These stalactites and stalagmites are proof that this cave was above the waterline around 12 to 15,000 years ago. The sea level was about 120 meters lower then. All of these caves that you can find around here, including the famous Cascade Cave with its ancient cave paintings, now have an underwater entrance. But now they're slowly back on their way up. If you're interested, I know Pierre Chavaldonnet, who's a cave specialist. We could visit him. I think he'd be very interested to meet a free diver, because they have trouble trying to collect samples from some of the caves. So he works on the fauna of these caves. They have to dive with air tanks, and that produces a lot of bubbles, which can destroy the fragile cave ecosystems. We can go and talk to him. Yes, good idea. I'd be really keen to meet him and get a chance to see that.
So the Galabon makes its way back to Marseille. At the university's Institute for Oceanography, some sponge organisms found in the caves have attracted a lot of attention from scientists. It is thought that the sponges produce a certain toxin that could be beneficial in the treatment of illnesses like cancer and AIDS. Fred is on his way to find out more.
Oui? Yeah.
Bonjour.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Yesterday we dove in the Tripri cave. It was wonderful. I love the dive with all these stalactite and this tunnel. And now I would like to know a bit more about the life in the underwater cave, because I couldn't see any fish. So I bet there is other form of life that are very interesting.
Yes, and you know there are many different kinds of caves. There are big caves and small caves, and this one is one of the biggest caves in the area. And you have also some other caves, like the 3PP cave in La Ciotat, which is going downslope when you're entering the cave. And you will notice if you go there that the waters are actually colder when you're getting in the cave, because the cold water is denser and it's heavier, so it stays in the lower parts of the cave. And these caves are very interesting because they are like the deep sea. You know, in a cave you have no light, you have almost no currents, and therefore you have almost no food coming in to the animals living in there. And we don't have all the, very often the occasion to go to the deep sea. So this is an opportunity to put our tanks and go in those caves and study animals that otherwise can only be studied with submarines and or robots. So can you actually stay a long time underwater, and long enough to get to the very end of those long caves to collect some samples maybe? This is interesting because in this cave we have a problem with our own bubbles from the scuba apparatus. We actually generate big bubbles that are disturbing the environment, and it is disturbing in many different ways. I told you in caves usually you have no currents, and those bubbles are actually creating currents in the cave, so they are disturbing the very fragile equilibrium in the caves. And furthermore, there some of those deep sea sponges living on the walls of the cave, they can be detached just mechanically. They can be detached by the big bubble, our bigger bubbles, and so maybe it's an interesting thing if you can go out and very smoothly and collect things without disturbing the environment. That would be interesting for us.
I'm going diving in the cave tomorrow, so maybe we can go and dive together.
Well, unfortunately tomorrow I cannot come with you, but I suggest I send my assistant Livia. Can you come? And she can come with you. She can go with you on the boat, and then she would take care of the samples you will bring back on the ship.
Okay.
And bring them back to the lab.
Okay. Wonderful. Let's do that.
The Bay of La Ciotat. This is the location of the cave. Now it's essential to have a really professional briefing. It could be a matter of survival.
So like we say, we dive together at the same time, so you can film and put more light, because otherwise I don't have enough light. Huh?
So I'll be slightly to your left and behind.
Yes, that will be perfect.
You. Okay.
We watch each other's. Okay. Signal me if you run out of air. I signal you also, so we, do exactly the same time. Huh?
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
On the way up, we watch each other's. It should be okay.
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 And Christian's gonna provide safety
stay outside,
on
okay?
the outside, watching.
Checking your time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if there is a problem,
Yes,
like
I can
after 2.5
answer
or 3 minutes,
I'm
you can
ready
get
to
in.
go in the cave, but yes, not more 1.5 minutes.
We
Inside
need
the cave.
Yeah, but we will need more than 2 minutes, I think. So just be ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Total dive from surface to surface should be 3 minutes.
Maximum.
Yeah.
But we try
Maximum
to keep
3
it
minutes.
between 2 and 2:30, but but not more than 3 minutes. Huh?
After 2 minutes, I come in the cave.
Okay.
Most important point of the dive is that we don't go too low or too high. We go too low, we stir up the bottom of the cave. We go too high, we risk running into something. So I'll try and keep the light shining on you to illuminate you so I can film you, but also somewhat in front so you can see clearly what you need to find the stuff we need.
Okay.
Christian thinks the risk is high.
Ouais, moi je pense que c'est quand même une opération qui est dangereuse.
I still think this is a dangerous undertaking.
Si elle est bien organisée,
But it's well organized, and since they're professionals, aware of the dangers involved, it is possible to have a go.
Tenter ce genre
But
d'expérience.
for amateurs, it would be impossible. After all, the cave entrance alone lies 17 meters below the water surface. Then he has to cover an additional 50 meters, and once in the cavern, it's impossible to get to the surface.
Donc il faut qu'il ramasse l'éponge et après qu'il refasse 50 mètres et 17
So he'll have to collect some sponges for analysis, and then make the 50 meters journey back.
140 mètres, dont
That's about 140 meters all told. 100 meters of that, he can't come up for air. If he stays down for more than 2 minutes, I'll go into the cave to see what's going on.
But Fred and Will are confident in their abilities and go ahead with the dive.
Okay, Christian. Our dive will be maximum 3 minutes.
Okay. But don't stay more 1.5 minutes inside the cave.
We'll try to do it. I try to get the sponge in less than 1.5
I stay
minutes.
outside the cave, I waiting to you, and I checking the time, and after 1.5 minutes I enter in the group.
We'll try to do as fast as we can.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a relief for the crew to see the divers surfacing again.
Voilà. Je crois que c'est bon.
Great. Thanks, Fred.
The assignment is complete. Soon these small bits of rocks and sponges will be examined under a microscope in Marseille. Fred doesn't show any signs of exhaustion from his challenging dive.
How was it?
Tout va bien.
Everything's fine.
It wasn't too hard?
No, it might have been a little long, but it was okay.
How far was it?
30 or 40 meters.
Ah, voilà Christian.
Ah, there's Christian. Everything all right? Yes, but you did give me a little bit of a fright. You were in too long. It takes its time. Yeah, of course. I dove down to the center and arrived before the time limit and took the sample. I was really stressed because of the time limit. But then I could see you. I was just about to go in myself. Really? Okay, it's done. We have the sponge.
But the sponges cannot survive for long in their small glass containers. The team makes their way back to Marseille. There is hope for the damaged waters of the Mediterranean. On their journey, Fred and Will have found healthy and recovering habitats, places where a surprising diversity of life manages to survive, and the efforts of people to clean up their coastlines and nurture life back are encouraging. Perhaps the Mediterranean will once again become the underwater Eden it once was.
What do you think after this trip, Will, and the Mediterranean?
Completely changed my opinion. I'm really surprised. There's a lot of fish, a lot of beautiful dive sites. One of the, I'd say, in the top 5 of places I've dove in the world.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was incredible. What was really impressive was the variety of opportunities to dive, the bottom contours, the rock formations, the abundance of fish, the different wrecks.
I told you, it can be surprising.
Very.